Welcome to the Growing Food and Feeding People podcast. Whether you're a backyard gardener, a market gardener, or a small-scale farmer just starting out or a seasoned grower, this show is for you. Join us as we share tips and tricks, tactics and hacks for growing food for yourself, your family, and your community, as well as sharing stories here from the field and other growers and farmers making a difference in their local food webs. My name is Cody, and I will be your host, so let's get growing. All right, welcome back to the Growing Food and Feeding People podcast. I hope you guys had a great Easter weekend, and if your kids were on spring break like mine were, I hope you had a good time. I completely underestimated my desire to hang out with the kids last week and didn't get nearly as much done as I wanted to. We still got a handful of things done, but I definitely enjoyed the week hanging out with the girls. So today we're going to jump right into our next episode in our companion planting series. And this episode was actually inspired by one of my YouTube subscribers, Career Garden. In our podcast episode all about the herbs, companion planting in the herb garden, they posed the question, well, what diseases are treated? Right? Because that's definitely one of the main benefits of companion planting is preventing disease in the garden, deterring pests, and increasing your productivity. You know, those are the three biggies why we do it. So although I gave a pretty detailed list on which herbs to companion plant in the vegetable garden to prevent the diseases, I really didn't dive that deeply into which diseases those herbs are actually preventing and what you can look for in case of an outbreak. So that's what this episode is all about. It's all about the diseases that you can prevent through companion planting and which herbs to plant to prevent the specific diseases. So rather than our main focus being on the herbs, in this episode it's actually going to be about the diseases that they prevent and what to look for and how to treat them. So let's dive right in. I've actually got a list of 10 of the most common plant diseases that we'll typically encounter out in the garden. So today we are going to jump right into that topic that is close to every gardener's heart, and that is how to prevent the plant diseases. Right? Which diseases are we preventing? What do we look for, and which herbs will prevent those in the veggie garden? So if you've been following along this series, you know that companion planting with certain herbs can help prevent some of the most common plant diseases. So today we're going to actually go over a list of 10 of those diseases. Now the first one we're going to start with, and if you've been gardening for very long at all, you've probably ran into this one, and that's powdery mildew. Now this is a pretty common fungal disease that affects many of the plants out there, including your cucumbers, your peas, and your zucchini. Now it'll look like a white powdery coating on the leaves, stems, and flowers of the affected plants. And to prevent the powdery mildew, herbs such as your chamomile, coriander, and dill can be planted nearby. These herbs actually contain antifungal properties that can help to prevent the disease from taking a hold. Now a couple other things you can do if you see it coming on is you want to ensure it's got good air circulation around the plants. So you may have to trim out the bottom leaves if it gets too thick. And you may want to avoid overhead watering. I do a lot of overhead watering here on the farm, and it's not too big of an issue. And you know, by planting the herbs with it, that's definitely going to help just prevent that from even happening. So the first one there is powdery mildew. Again, it attacks cucumbers, peas, and zucchini, but you can help prevent that by using chamomile, coriander, or dill. Now, next up is actually downy mildew. This is also a fungal disease that can affect plants such as your grapes, lettuce, and spinach. Now, this is going to appear as yellowish spots on the leaves, which will eventually turn brown and dry out. Now, to prevent downy mildew, herbs such as basil, oregano, and thyme can be planted nearby. These herbs actually contain essential oils that have antifungal properties and can help prevent the disease from spreading. Now again, practicing good sanitation and removing any affected plant debris can also help prevent downy mildew. Now number 3 on the list is going to be black spot. Now black spot is actually another fungal disease, but this one affects your roses. And you know we like to do companion planting with our flowers, so anything that affects the roses is not a good thing. Now these will actually cause black spots that appear on the leaves, which will eventually turn yellow and fall off. Now to prevent black spot, herbs such as chamomile, chives, and garlic can be planted nearby. These herbs contain natural fungicides that can help to prevent the disease from taking hold. Additionally, good pruning infected plant parts can also help to prevent the black spot. Now next on the list we've got Fusarium wilt. Now this is another fungal disease that affects plants such as your tomatoes and cucumbers. It actually eventually causes the plants to wilt and die. You'll notice it by the yellowing or browning of the leaves. Now to prevent fusarium wilt, herbs such as basil, cilantro, and parsley can be planted nearby. These herbs contain compounds that are actually toxic to the fusarium fungus and can help to prevent the disease from spreading. Additionally, practicing good sanitation and removing infected plant debris, of course, just like the other ones. And hopefully you guys are kind of catching on to that. As soon as you see these things come on, you really want to prune out or trim out the plants, get the infected leaves or stems off of there so it doesn't spread to the rest of the plant. Now next on the list is going to be root rot. Now root rot is a fungal disease that affects the roots of the plants, such as your beans, peas, and your peppers. Now it causes the roots to turn brown and mushy, which can ultimately kill the plant. Another one we definitely don't want in the garden. So to prevent root rot, herbs such as chamomile, garlic, and mint can be planted nearby. These herbs contain compounds that can help to prevent the disease from taking hold. Additionally, you really want to avoid overwatering, and you want to ensure that it's got good drainage. That'll definitely help prevent root rot as well. You don't want the water just sitting there pooled up on the roots. Now moving on to another pretty common plant disease, we're going to talk about early blight. Now this is a fungal disease that every farmer dreads if he's growing tomatoes. Tomatoes and potatoes can actually be affected by the early blight, and it'll cause brown spots on the leaves and stems. Now to prevent early blight, herbs such as thyme, oregano, and sage can be planted nearby. These herbs contain antifungal properties that can help to prevent the disease from spreading. Additionally, spacing these plants properly is pretty important. Now you know I'm a big believer in maximizing my space. However, you do need to space these plants far enough apart to where they at least get decent airflow. That's why pruning your tomatoes is really pretty important. You know, I've ran experiments in the past where I didn't prune and I kind of just let them go and just kept trellising it all up. And you can grow an awful lot of tomatoes that way, but the problem that comes into play with that is that you don't get good enough airflow, and diseases such as the early blight can become an issue. So again, to prevent that, just plant some thyme or oregano or sage nearby, and that should help with the issue along with good airflow. Now the next one up is septoria leaf spot. Now this is another fungal disease that affects tomatoes as well, and it can cause significant yield losses. It appears as small, dark spots on the leaves that can eventually cause them to yellow and fall off. Now to prevent the septoria leaf spot, herbs such as basil, cilantro, and parsley can be planted nearby. These herbs contain compounds that are toxic to the septoria fungus and can help to prevent the disease from spreading. Again, good practices like removing the infected plant debris and avoid overwatering and having good drainage and good spacing is also going to help prevent the septoria leaf spot as well. Now the next one up just sounds scary. That's gray mold, also known as botrytis blight. The gray mold is a fungal disease that affects a wide range of plants, including strawberries, grapes, and tomatoes. It appears as a gray, fuzzy mold on the leaves, stems, and flowers of the affected plant. Now, to prevent the gray mold, herbs such as rosemary, sage, and thyme can be planted nearby. Now, these herbs contain essential oils that have antifungal properties that can help to prevent the disease from spreading. Again, good practices like removing the infected debris and avoiding overwatering is another thing that's going to help prevent the gray mold. Now the next one up is another fungal disease that affects tomatoes, and that's late blight. Now it can cause significant yield loss and appears as large brown spots on the leaves and stems. Now to prevent late blight, herbs such as garlic, onions, and chives can be planted nearby. These herbs contain compounds that help prevent the disease from taking hold. Additionally, again, good practices like spacing your plants out and not overwatering and crop rotation is also going to help to prevent the late blight. Now that is one that I've encountered in the past, so I started companion planting my bunching onions along with my tomatoes and garlic, and that does seem to work pretty well. Again, you just want to make sure you're doing everything else we spoke of here, because really guys, along with the companion planting, that's why you really need to get out there and do your maintenance every week as far as your pruning, your cleaning up, trying to keep things, They'll grow in a garden full of weeds, do not get me wrong. I've experimented with that as well in the past. You can still grow a lot of food that way. But if you really want to maximize what you're doing, you really want to prevent the disease, prevent the pests, doing things like the companion planting, proper spacing, proper watering, proper drainage, proper pruning, all of these things are the things that are going to help you maximize the production and grow the most food possible in your garden. Now, last one on the list, number 10, is bacterial wilt. Now, this is a disease that affects cucumbers, squash, and melons. Now, it causes the plants to wilt and die. So again, not a disease you want to have in your garden, not one you want to grab a hold of your cucumbers, squash, or melons. And you'll notice it coming on with the yellowing and wilting of the leaves, which, like I said, inevitably leads to the death of the plant. Now, to prevent bacterial wilt, herbs such as basil, cilantro, and parsley can be planted nearby. Again, these herbs contain compounds that are toxic to the bacteria that causes the disease and can help to prevent it from spreading. Again, proper sanitation, removing infected plant debris, avoiding overwatering, all of that is also going to help prevent your bacterial wilt. So there you have it, guys. There's 10 common plant diseases that just about all of us are going to encounter in the garden if we don't figure out the ways to prevent them. And all of these can be prevented with the help of companion planting with the herbs that I've listed here for you. So by planting the right herbs near your vegetables, you can help to prevent the diseases from taking hold and ensure a healthy, productive harvest. And again, that's what I want for you guys. Grow as much food as you can. Start growing food and feeding people. And if you're already doing it, grow some more. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. Nice, short, and sweet, but I definitely wanted to get that one out there. Answer Khmer Garden's question on exactly which diseases are treated through companion planting with herbs. So I hope you guys have a pretty detailed list there now on exactly which herbs to use with which veggies and exactly why. And, that's kind of the deal. Some people want to know what to do. Some people want to know how to do it. And some people want to know why. And if you're like me, you want to know what, how, and why. Right? So I kind of dropped the ball on that one. But I'm kind of glad that I did, because it actually allowed me to dedicate a whole episode to that and to the specific diseases that are treated by the herbs and exactly how the herbs handle those. Hope you got something out of this one, guys. Do me a favor if you can, rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this at. Have yourself a great week, make somebody smile, and we will see you on the next one.